guys, and happy Monday. Happy last Monday of September and the first Monday of my favorite season of the year, fall. It's fall, y'all, and I am Abra Kurt, a certified integrative life and wellness coach and lifestyle designer, and you are watching my series, Sparked. Hi, babe. Thanks for tuning in. As you all are hopping on this evening, please say hi and let me know you're here. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, and say hi and let me know you're here as you are hopping on the show. You are tuned into my weekly lifestyle series, Sparked. Sparked is also a vibrant online community that literally connects right here inside the comments of the show. Every week, we connect around a relevant topic, reflect on its importance in our lives, and get inspired to take action. I share tips and resources that we can take back and use to get inspired and take some action in our own lives. So if you're a dreamer, a doer, or anyone who's just looking for a more meaningful, joyful, fulfilling life, you are in the right place, my friend. So say hi and let's start connecting. Yes, Scott says, is fall a season? Around here, we just call it Halloween. Yes, that is very true. Around here, we do just call fall Halloween. Yes, so it is a season. Yeah, officially it started last Tuesday. So this is our first episode of the fall season. As you all are hopping on, please say hi and let me know you're here. I was just giving a little bit of background for the first time viewers about Sparked and our community. Every month here at Sparked, we connect around a theme. And then each week we talk about a topic relevant to that theme. We connect, reflect, and get inspired to take action in our own lives. You'll also see links to support our content and community in the show description. And each week, we pay it forward by giving 10% off the top back to charity. And I will share a little bit more about this week's charity later in the show. Hi, Georgie. Thank you so much for being here. Donna, hi. Thank you so much for being here. Before we dive into tonight's content, I do want to say thank you to a few special people who contributed to last week's tribute episode to RBG. So I'd like to say thank you to Christine, to Rose, to Patrice, to Georgie, to Donna, and to my sweet mother-in-law, Vicky. Thank you so much. Your support of this show and this community allow us to keep doing what we're doing right here every single week. So thank you so, so much. And if anyone else is so moved, you can see the links in the show description to give back to our content and community. All right, you guys, it is the last Monday of the month, and here at Sparked, that means it's time to get lit. The last Monday of the month is dedicated to a special episode around my monthly book chat, and our theme all month long has been refocusing our energy, because for me, September is about new beginnings. It's my birthday. It's the change of seasons, which I love, and I couldn't think of a better book to align with the theme of refocusing our energy than Marie Forleo's New York Times bestseller, Everything is Figureoutable. You guys, if anyone picked up the book and read along with me this month, you'll see why I love Marie so much. She's a Jersey girl at heart. She is unfiltered. She tells it like it is, but she's so inspiring, and she just cuts right to the heart of advice that is so actionable and can be relevant to us in so many different aspects of our lives. And Everything is Figureoutable has become a mantra in my life. So if that all sounds great to you, please send up some hearts for Marie, for a New York Times bestseller, for figuring it out together. And do me a favor and hit the share button. Let's spread this conversation all over Facebook, because I bet there are some people in your feeds who could benefit from a little let's figure it out advice, right? Okay. Thank you so much. Tonight, here's what we are going to be talking about. I'm going to share my biggest takeaways from Everything is Figureoutable, which includes Marie's 5-step roadmap to figuring it out. We are going to talk about the one simple idea that is critical to success in any endeavor. I'm going to share Marie's advice about how to tell the difference between fear and intuition when you have a big decision to make, or you're deciding whether to accept an offer or move forward with action on a dream. How to know if it's your intuition saying, oh, maybe this is just not the thing, not the time, or if it's just fear getting in the way and it's something we need to push through. We'll talk about how to tell the difference. I'm also going to share some big advice about how to avoid something we all want to avoid, which is criticism, how to avoid criticism. And I'm going to share personally from my own life experience 3 phrases that I think are really overused, that are disguised as everything is figureoutable encouragement, but that I think are really kind of counterproductive and toxic, especially in a workplace environment, and I'll explain why. All right, you guys, send up some hearts, hit that share button, and let's dive in. The first thing we do here at Sparked when we dive into our content is share a fantastic quote that is relevant to our topic, and we do that during our book discussions too. So of course, if we are discussing Marie Forleo's Everything is Figureoutable, this week our quote of the week comes from Marie herself. And it is some great advice, you guys. It's a really simple concept, just like everything is figureoutable, but it goes something like this. Nothing in life is that complicated. You can do whatever you set your mind to if you just roll up your sleeves, get in there, and do it. Hi, Mama Vicky. I'm so glad you're here. I know you were having some internet connectivity issues tonight. Other folks, as you're hopping on, please say hi. Let me know you're here. Connect with everybody in the comments, please. So how about that for Marie's quote, you guys? Nothing in life is really that complicated. And what she means by that is, you know, if it's not like a law of nature or, you know, something like death or gravity, right? Everything is figureoutable, and it's not that complicated. Anything we want to do, if we just roll up our sleeves, get in there and do it, we can make it happen. So right now, I want to ask you guys to take to the comments and share with me. I want to ask you guys a question. So I want to know from you, when have you employed the everything is figureoutable mindset in your own life? So give me something that you've done in your life that seemed really hard or complicated, and maybe you thought like, oh, maybe I should call somebody else in to help me do this or do it for me, but you just rolled up your sleeves, you got in there, you figured it out. Maybe it took some time, maybe it was hard, maybe you had to like do a couple steps over, I don't know, but you figured it out and you did it on your own. Share in the comments. I want to hear how you guys have employed already the everything is figureoutable mindset in your own lives, and you didn't even have a name to call it. All right. Vicky says, yeah, just take baby steps. Absolutely. Scott says, lit. And yes, please say hi in the comments as you are hopping on. That lets me know you're here. And I love to say hi to peeps who are tuning in to the show. So share with me something that you've done in your life that you just like decided to roll up your sleeves, get in there and figure it out. Even if it seemed hard or complicated or like, maybe this is something I should hire somebody to do or ask for help. You just did it on your own. For me, while you guys are typing in the comments, I built my own websites. And I'll tell you guys, you know, I'm not super techie, but I didn't have a big budget when I was just starting out. And there are some great sites out there that are really design intuitive for amateurs like me, and I just got in there. I rolled up my sleeves, I watched some tutorials, I read all the instructions, and I built my own content site, including a full blog, and I built my own e-commerce site and my online store. So if you want to check that out, it's abracurt.com, and blissberg.com is my online shop, and I built those all by myself. Took Marie's advice before she even wrote this book and just got in there and figured it out. Scott said at our old house, he swapped out our electrical outlets. Yeah, he did. And, you know, we didn't burn down the house, you guys. He figured it out. He had no idea how to do it, went online, watched some tutorials, went to Home Depot, and got it done. Yeah, we are DIY home improvement folks, you guys. Donna moved to a new country where she didn't speak the language for work when she was 29. Yeah, and figured it out, right? Like, you just got to dive in, roll up your sleeves, and figure it out. Like Marie says, nothing in life is really that complicated unless it's an irrefutable law of nature, right? All right, you guys, I'm so excited. I want to read some other people's thoughts, but we are going to dive into this book because I promised that I would share some of my biggest takeaways with you all. If you read the book along with me this month, also, show of hands in the comments. Let me know if you read along in the book and you have some takeaways that you want to share yourself. I'm going to share some of mine, and I'm going to start with what I put together as a 5-step roadmap to figuring it out, courtesy of Marie. Okay, so it's the 5-step figure it out roadmap. So these are kinds of the steps that get us to where we need to be. If we're struggling, if we're not sure how to begin, if we get discouraged along the way, kind of refer back to these 5 steps and we can get back in the mindset of figuring it out. Yes, Donna says, was that to prevent visible cords? Oh, she knows us all too well. It actually wasn't. We needed the 3-prong outlet things, and I don't know, Scott can explain in the comments. Vicky says she learned how to wallpaper and replace molding, including mitered corners, and there was no Google back then. Yes, I love that, Vicky. Thank you for sharing that, because one of the things I love so much about Marie's book, she talks about her own mom in this book, and her mom is the person who gave her the mindset that everything is figureoutable. And she shares stories, and I'll just share 2 examples that Marie shared about her mom. Her mom was a single mom in Jersey, and, you know, she would have to stretch a dollar, right? Have to stretch a dollar to take care of her family. And Marie tells a story at the beginning of the book about, you know, back in the day, you know, 70s, 80s, you would mail in the proofs of purchase from things to get like free gifts in the mail, right? And she tells a story about her mom sending away to Tropicana, the orange juice company, for a little radio that was shaped like an orange. And there was a straw stuck into the orange that was actually the antenna for the radio. And it was her mom's like favorite thing ever. She, you know, saved proofs of purchase for this, sent away, got this transistor, this little radio shaped like an orange with a straw stuck in it from Tropicana. And Marie tells the story that she could always figure out like where her mom was in the house, but she would just listen for that radio and she could figure out where her mom was. And one day she came home and she didn't hear the radio, and she tracks her mom down, and she's sitting at a table and she has like the parts of the radio just are scattered all over. And turns out the radio stopped working and her mom was going to fix it. And she figured it out. She fixed it. She bought some parts and put it back together and made it work again. And yes, those were the days before Google. Those were the days before YouTube tutorials, before all the things. And women like Vicky, women like Marie's mom were figuring it out. And y'all, we can do the same, right? We can continue to do the same. All right. Marie's 5-step roadmap to figuring it out starts with the one thing that we've talked about here a lot in the past on episodes of Sparked, right? It's mindset work that I talk about over and over and over as so important and so relevant to so many aspects of our lives, but it's training our brains for growth. Training our brains for growth. So that means, you know what? Get rid of those limiting beliefs. Those things that say, this is too hard. This is really complicated. This is going to take a long time. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to build websites. I don't know how to do wallpaper. I don't know how to fix radios. I'm just going to throw it out or get a new one or do whatever. No, let's toss out those limiting beliefs and say, you know what? I can figure this out, right? I'm a smart person. I'm a determined person. I can figure this out because everything is figureoutable. And now we have Google and we have YouTube, right? Okay. Number 1, train our brains for growth. Get rid of those limiting beliefs and believe that it's possible. All right. Number 2, eliminate excuses. Eliminate excuses. And what she means by that are two words in particular. And I think I've talked about these myself a time or two. It's can't and won't. Because Marie tells us that, in her opinion, can't actually means won't. So when we say like, oh, I can't make it tonight to this thing, or I can't, fix this, whatever, right? It just means I won't. I'm not going to try. I won't do it. And won't actually means unwilling. So when we say, oh, I won't do this, right? It just means like, I don't want to. I am unwilling to do this thing. And so those are really excuses that stay in the way of us getting things done, right? Jane says here, hey, Jane, it's great to see you. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We are talking about Maria's 5-step roadmap to figuring it out. And number 1 is training our brains for growth. Number 2 is eliminating excuses of can't and won't. And just saying, you know what, if it's something we care about, we're going to try to figure it out. We are willing to do it, and we're going to try. All right, number 3, start before you're ready. Start before you're ready, right? So that was really relevant for me when I started doing these shows, even when I put my very first, candle up for sale, right? Like, I wasn't sure the packaging was where I wanted it to be. I wasn't sure. I'd never done live shows before. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I had to, get everything perfect, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I didn't think I was ready. I felt, that fear, right? But I checked in with myself and I pushed through it. And here we are, right? So it's starting before you're ready. It's recognizing that it's never going to be perfect, and it's not meant to be, because we iterate as we go, right? I have tweaked my candle packaging for years since that very first time, and it will probably change again someday, right? Like, we keep growing, we keep changing, we iterate, right? Same with the show. We've changed backdrops, we've changed cameras and lighting and all of these different things. I've changed the way I structure the content of the show. It never has to be perfect out of the gate. What gives us confidence is actually taking the action. So often we think that we have to have the confidence and feel right and feel ready before we can take the action. And I promise you guys, I have lived this story myself. It's taking the action that gives you confidence, because after you have 1 under your belt or 2 under your belt, you're like, oh, this feels good. This is actually fun. Like, I interacted with people and people showed up and it was fun, and people wrote me afterwards, or people watched on replay and told me this was helpful. And you just keep flexing those muscles, and it becomes more natural and more comfortable the more we do the thing. So start before we're ready. All right. Number 4, I already touched on this. Seek progress, not perfection. Seek progress, not perfection. So that goes hand in hand with starting before we're ready, right? It's all about just taking those little steps, right? Getting more and more done on our way, on our journey, right? But it's not about the perfection. It's not about having every single thing. It's not about having the perfect packaging the first time I put a candle, to market, right? It's not about having everything perfect with the lighting and the set design and the script and all of the things and all of the super expensive equipment before I did my first live show. No, we start before we're ready, and we strive for progress, not perfection, because we iterate as we go, and we recognize things are going to change, things are going to grow over time, right? And number 5, so in the 5-step roadmap to figuring it out, number 5, refuse to be refused. Refuse to be refused. And this is a little bit like, don't take no for an answer when it comes to asking for what we want or what we need in terms of, help, or if we believe like we are the right person for a job or whatever it is, right? Refuse to be refused. We make our case. And maybe it doesn't go our way every single time, right? There's not a guarantee with refusing to be refused. But the beauty of it is, the more we learn to stand up for ourselves, to make our case, to state our worth and what we believe we want, the more likely it is that things will go our way down the road. Even if one or two times it doesn't, we feel more comfortable making our case, right? And we become more successful just by the sheer fact of doing the thing. Because if we never do it, it will never go our way, right? All right, so the 5-step roadmap is train our brains for growth, okay? Eliminate those limiting beliefs. Number 2, eliminate excuses. Can't, won't are no longer words in our vocabulary. Number 3 is start before we're ready. Number 4, progress over perfection. And number 5, refuse to be refused. Make our case. Georgie says, speaking of candles, she received hers today. Love the autumn scent pumpkin and clove. Thank you, Georgie. Yes, I am a big fan of all things pumpkin and clove. This is my favorite season of the year. It is a fan favorite in my candle scents. And, you know, some people might say it's basic. I call it classic because it never goes out of style. I love the taste and smell of all things pumpkin and spicy. Scott says, perfect as you go. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Like, we iterate, right? Like, everything grows and changes and gets better over time, right? We figure out things that maybe didn't work or things that we want to improve. And that iteration as we go, that starting before we're ready, allows us to learn along the way. And that's an important part of the process, right? That's an important part of the process. All right. Moving on, another big takeaway from Everything is Figureoutable is this really simple, one simple idea that is absolutely critical to success in any endeavor. Number 1, simple idea critical to success in any endeavor. Focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control, right? So as an example, if we are job hunting, right? And we can't control what the hiring manager does, right? But we can control how we approach the process to job hunting. We can control how many resumes we put out. We can control how much research we do about all the companies that we're applying to. We can control how much detail we know, how we sell ourselves, how we make our case, right? How we refuse to be refused. So we focus on what we can control in the process, right? Not hoping or getting caught up in, well, what if this person does this, or what if that doesn't go my way, or what if there's, this thing happens. No, those things are, well, one, excuses, right? Roadblocks that we put up in our own way, and things that just slow us down and really aren't relevant to our own effort, right? We focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and efforts and attitudes, right? That is what we can control. Jane says her boss calls this controlling the controllables. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great term for it. Controlling the controllables, right? It's what is in our own power, not worrying about what anybody else might do, could do, should do, won't do, whatever. We focus on what we can control in any given situation, and that is critical. That is critical to success in any endeavor, because if we try to focus on all the other things that are outside of our control, we can't impact those outcomes. The outcomes we can impact are our own efforts, our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes, right? Okay. I want to share something that was really funny with regard to fall and trying to control things. Y'all know how much I love the Sunday comics, right? I share a comic that I cut out of the Washington Post just about every week. And this is one that really resonated with me this week as I'm talking about everything is figureoutable and trying to control things, and maybe trying to control things that are really out of your control, right? And so this is Sally Forth, and this is a comic about a family. It's a mom, dad, and a daughter. And in this comic, Sally and her daughter are hanging out outside on the patio. And Sally is kind of lamenting the fact that it's fall already. It feels like she's hardly had any chance to enjoy the seasons this year, and she's kind of missed that. and she's prepared two beverages for her and her daughter to drink. So here they're drinking, and they spit everything out. And her daughter's like, "What the And they're like, "Oh, this is 14 kinds of wrong," is what Sally says. And her daughter asks, "Did you make a pumpkin spiced Arnold Palmer with peppermint?" And her mom says, "I tried to combine all the seasons into one drink. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go vomit all the things I ate as a child." So that just made me laugh really hard as I was preparing the content for this episode, and I was reading comic strips and just thinking about like fall, our first episode of fall, and feeling like, oh, we couldn't control summer and all of this stuff happened, and fall, and who knows what's going to happen in the winter time, right? And so you just try to mash it all in, and and sometimes we can try to over control things a little bit too much, and this is what happens. The summer, fall, winter drink all rolled up into one. It turned out to be not so great, but that was kind of hilarious, and I wanted to share that. All right, you guys. So back to the book. I want to share another takeaway from Everything is Figureoutable. And this is a really important one. This is a really, really important one. It's how to tell the difference between fear and intuition when we have a big decision to make, right? Like, so say we get an offer to take a new position, or we're not sure about whether to move forward with, a plan that we have or a dream that we have, or, it's a big step. Should I make this move, or whatever it is? And there's just this like some kind of feeling of apprehension, right? Those butterflies in our stomach, that like unsettling that makes us not super sure about what to do. And sometimes we let that fear hold us back because we're like, oh, this is my gut telling me not to do it. But is it really, right? Is it really our intuition saying, no, this is no bueno for you, like, don't do this? Or is it just fear of, oh God, I've never done this before. I don't know, should I move to Egypt and learn a language I've never spoken before, right? Should I actually try to wallpaper my own living room? I don't know. No, I'm just going to pay all the money and have somebody else to do it, right? Is it intuition saying, no, we really shouldn't do this? Or is it just fear of doing something new? So you guys, here is a little process, courtesy of Marie, to help us figure that out. Okay. So I want you to think right now, if you guys are out there watching and anybody has a big decision that you're on the verge of making, right? Or if it's something like, oh, I don't know if I should, do this thing, right? Take a new job, or, make this move, or, try to sell my house right now, or, downsize, whatever it might be, right? If you are watching and you're having like this big decision in your life, but you feel some apprehension around it, or even if you're not, and one comes up down the road for you, this is Marie's process for how to tell the difference between fear that holds us back and intuition that's actually guiding us, our gut instinct. How to tell the difference. All right. So you have this big decision. The first thing you want to do is get centered. So do this exercise with me, you guys. Just pretend like you're making a big decision. All right. If you're watching, do this exercise with me. Get centered. Think about a big decision you've had to make, or maybe if you have one that's pending in your life right now. Just get centered. Get with that decision. Like it's in your mind, right? All right. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Get centered. Sit with the question on your heart. All right. Get centered around that question. Take a few deep breaths, all right? Just get like in your mind, settle your mind, be present in your body. Take a few deep breaths, hold that question in your heart. Tap into your feelings and emotions about the question on your heart, about the thing that you don't know. Is this my fear, or is this real intuition? And ask yourself this one question. Does saying yes to this make me feel expansive or contracted? Does saying yes to this make me feel expansive, like I'm growing, like I'm expanding, like I'm becoming the newer version of myself, right? We're on this journey of becoming constantly in our lives. Does this make me feel expansive, or does this make me feel contracted? Does this limit me in some way? Is this holding me back? Is this not part of my dream for my future, for my vision? Ask ourselves that one question. And how does that make us feel? Expansive or contracted? That is Maria's advice for telling the difference between fear and intuition. If we feel like, yeah, this is a scary thing, right? Like to Donna's example, moving to Egypt, not knowing how to speak the language, it's a scary thing, right? We're going to have fear around that. But doing that, is that something that like, yeah, I'm going to grow tremendously from this experience? Just thinking about it lights my heart up. I think about all of the experiences I'm going to have, all the people I'll meet, all the things I'll learn. It's a hell yeah. Or if the answer is, oh, no, this just makes me feel contracted. This isn't part of my vision for myself. This is going to set me back a year from my own, 5-year plan for myself. If I do this thing, this is just a sidestep. This is somebody else's goal for me. And, it's a no. This feels contracting to me. This feels limiting to me. This feels lessening to me, right? So getting all centered, closing our eyes, a few deep breaths, hold the question in our heart, right? Sit with our emotions around it and ask, does this make me feel expansive and like I will grow? Or is this limiting and contracting? So that's Maria's advice for telling the difference between fear and intuition. All right, you guys. Now, I promised at the beginning of the episode that I was also going to share some advice for how to avoid criticism, right? Share of hands in the comments. Who hates criticism? Who hates being judged and critiqued and feeling like, oh, somebody is talking about, my hair? Or Marie shares a story in the book about this raging debate. She launched a new program, and this thread started in the comments about people hating on her hair, literally. Talking about how her hair was fake and it was all extensions. And this whole conversation just derailed any focus on the thing she was doing. And she's like, well, sorry haters, but it is actually my own hair. And if you look at this picture of her on the cover of the book, she has this gorgeous, long, beautiful, flowing hair. And people are debating on her social media about, it's all fake and all extensions and all the things. And Maria's like, sorry haters. No. So who hates criticism? Yeah. Hate being judged, hate criticism, right? Plays back on a loop in your head, right? Even if it's just one comment, you put something out there, right? Or you share something and somebody's like, ugh, this is dumb. Or, Scott's like me, right? If it's, as an example, from him, he puts a new song out and he gets a comment that's like, hate that, right? Or, we post a picture of ourselves at an event and somebody's like, oh, that outfit makes her look fat, right? There's always going to be one, right? At least one, right? And so how to avoid it? How do we actually avoid the criticism that makes us crazy, that hurts our hearts, right? That gets in our heads and we just play it over and over in those destructive loops, right? All right. Super simple, you guys. Super simple. Say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. That's it. Because you know what? Criticism happens to everyone who puts yourself out there, right? Who shares anything, who tries to accomplish anything in life. Criticism happens to everyone. We are all judged. We are all criticized. The only way to avoid it is to just retreat into a shell, never say anything, never do anything, never have an opinion, never put ourselves out there, never try to be anything, never try to grow. And frankly, even then, probably somebody's still going to judge you for, your lack of effort, right? So even that isn't a guarantee. So that one was kind of a little red herring in the advice, but Marie is always good for a joke or two. And so that's to say, you guys, there is no avoiding criticism. So in the everything is figureoutable mindset, when we're doing something new or we're taking a big risk or we're pursuing our dream, and the fear of criticism is one of those things that holds us back, because God, what are people going to say if I like talk about writing a book? Or what are people going to say if I just pick up and move to Egypt for a year? Or what are people going to say if I start my own business? You guys, there's always going to be people who criticize and judge. And Marie does have some advice, though, for actually how to deal with it. So, you guys, there's no way to avoid it, all right? Unless you literally just crawl in a hole and cover up your head with a blanket and never do anything, say anything, or want to be anything or anyone, right? But she does have some advice for how to deal with it. And the biggest one, you guys, consider the source. Consider the source of the criticism. Where is this coming from? You know, if it's, Scott putting music out, is it strangers on the internet saying like, don't like that song, right? There's always going to be one to handful, right? Or, that outfit makes her look fat, or, I wouldn't have, quit that secure job and tried to start a business in this economy, right? There's always going to be those voices, those naysayers. And how to deal with it, number one, where is it coming from, right? Is it strangers on the internet who literally know nothing about us, about our lives? Or even if it's people who think they do, right? Because, they follow you on social media, or, they're friends with you on Facebook or whatever. They think they know something about your life, so they have a license to judge it, right? Vicky says, yep, most naysayers are insecure themselves. That is so, so true. Consider the source. Is it somebody that you would actually ask for advice, right? Because if it's not, leave it. Bless it and let it go. Bless it and let it go, Thank them for taking the time to engage or share their opinion, and just let it go. Now, we might even get criticism from people who love us because they just want what's best for us, right? So, in my case, like quitting a secure job in corporate America to start my own business after the age of 40, right? Big risk. So, people might say, I don't know if that's such a good idea. Like, have you really thought that through? Like, how much money do you have saved? I don't know. Really? Candles? How many candles you're going to have to sell to make up that salary? Like, all of those things, right? And sometimes the people that we love can be critical and judgmental because they only want what's best for us, right? It's not the strangers on the internet. It's not the haters who are insecure and just want to nitpick and, be jerks, right? Sometimes the criticism coming from the people who love us because they just want to protect us and keep us safe and do all the things for us. Like, sometimes that can hold us back just as much. And gosh, that sometimes is the criticism that gets in our head the most. And there we have to say, okay, well, I'm considering the source, and it's somebody that I care about. It's somebody I have asked for advice, and this is the advice I'm getting. So in that case, Marie says, you know what? Use what we can, right? Like, if somebody is offering you advice and it's somebody whose opinion you trust, somebody whose advice you've actually sought, and they're making some good points, take it in, right? Maybe there's some things in there that we didn't think of, right? Like, how much money do I have saved before I quit my job? Oh, gosh, maybe I should think about that a little more deeply. Maybe, this song, like, if it's in Scott's, world, right? If criticism is like, maybe I would do something different with this melody, or you could do this with the, chorus or something like that, right? If it's a musician, if it's a songwriter, somebody he respects and has sought advice from in the past, right? Take a learning from it if it's applicable. Take what we can, but still, maybe there's stuff in there that's not relevant, or maybe it's just somebody trying to be overprotective, right? Understanding the source, understanding where they're coming from, taking what we can, blessing the rest, and leaving it, right? Okay. Use what helps, leave the rest. And I also want to say something else about this, and this is from me, not necessarily from Marie, but go easy on the self-criticism too. And, next to the loved ones and the people who are coming from a place of love and wanting to protect us that sometimes hold us back, the voices in our own head hold us back even more. Our own criticism that, looking at myself on video and being like, oh my God, I hate how I look on camera, or, oh my God, do I really look like that? Or, oh my gosh, Scott, like, is that really what this song sounded like? Like, oh, I was nasally that day, or whatever, right? Our own criticism, or like, I can't like learn this language in a new country, right? Our own negative self-talk, our own limiting beliefs, which is why that was part of Maria's 5-step roadmap to figuring it out, right? Is a growth mindset, eliminating our limiting beliefs, because our own self-talk and our own head, our criticism holds us back even more in most cases than those strangers on the internet, than those insecure people, than those people who love us that are just kind of trying to say it for our own good, right? But don't always recognize, the effect it has, right? So be mindful of our own criticism as well. And to Vicky's point that most naysayers are insecure themselves, I just told Scott this morning there's a great quote that Marie shares in Everything is Figureoutable, and it's not from her, it's actually from another author, Paul Coelho, who is he writes parables, kind of from a mindset perspective. And Paul's quote says that most haters are just confused admirers who can't figure out why everyone else loves you so much. Most haters are just confused admirers who can't figure out why everyone else loves you so much, right? So their naysayers can be insecure. They can also be like grudgingly like, oh yeah, God, I wish I had the guts to write a song and put it out there. I wish I had the guts to like, do shows on, social media. I wish I had the guts to start my own business or move to a country I've never lived in before, right? But, like, why is everybody think she's all that for that? Like, they're grudging admirers, right, who can't figure out why everybody else thinks it's so great. So that is a funny little quote from Paul Coelho about naysayers and haters. Georgie says, yeah, we know what's going on with the naysayers. We know what's going on with the naysayers. And remember, you guys, another one of the 5 steps to the roadmap, progress, not perfection, right? So the criticism, the critique, if it's about thinking it has to be perfect, no. Go back to the 5 steps. That's the foundation for everything. It's progress, not perfection. All right, I want to share another little treat with you guys that's outside of the book, Everything is Figureoutable. If you have watched some episodes in the past, you know I am a big fan of these cute little affirmators cards. These are adorable little affirmations that come in card form, right? And there's a whole deck of them in here. It's like a deck of cards, but they're affirmations in different ways. And these are affirmations for creativity. And I love it because they're kind of irreverent and funny. And it says, 50 affirmation cards to help you help yourself without the self-helpiness. So they're kind of quirky, kind of funny. And I found the perfect affirmator card for tonight's episode. And first of all, I have to share this picture with y'all. It is this adorable little puppy dog and a magic wand. You guys, imagine, okay? Who doesn't love a good fairy wand? All right. And the affirmation card says, I can too. And the wand is like throwing little pixie dust crystals on the dog. And the affirmation is, I can too. Every single thing in the man-made world was once an idea in someone's mind. That chair, these shoes, those matching bedazzled Dolly Parton bathrobes. Yeah, it actually says that, you guys. That's why I love these. The matching bedazzled Dolly Parton bathrobes. I wish I had one of those. Being surrounded by the physical manifestation of so many schemes and dreams and artisanal ice creams. Ooh, I could go for some of that too. Is like jet fuel for my creative engine. If all these things got made, I can make whatever I want. Pass the bedazzler, please. I can too. I love this card, and I thought it was so perfect for tonight's episode of Everything is Figureoutable discussion. And so I wanted to share that. And plus, it had a really cute little, I don't know what that is, like a chihuahua. I think it's a chihuahua puppy and a fairy wand. So anyway, I can too. The affirmation from Affirmators, which is a great resource. I love these. I keep these on my side table in my office, and I just pick through these and look for something relevant to content that I'm creating or however I'm feeling that day. If I need my own little pick-me-up, right? Self-help without the self-helpiness. All right, I can too. All right, I also said that I was going to share one of my own personal sort of takeaways from life, right? So I shared my biggest takeaways from Everything is Figureoutable. We talked about Marie's 5-step roadmap to figuring it out, right? We talked about the one simple idea critical to success in any endeavor, right? The control the controllables, as Jane said, right? The focus on what you control. We talked about how to tell the difference between fear and intuition, right? That getting centered, getting right with the question on your heart and asking yourself, does this make me feel expansive and growing, or does this make me feel contracting and limited, right? And we talked about how to avoid criticism, which we learned you can't, but we talked about how to deal with it. All right. And I also said that I was going to share 3 phrases that I have come to see in life as disguised as everything is figureoutable encouragement, right? But they're actually counterproductive and kind of toxic, especially if deployed in a workplace setting, where I've heard most, if not all, of these used. Okay, some of them are just overused. You know, people in the tech industry say something, right? And then someone hears it and it becomes their new favorite thing to say, whether it's relevant in their industry or not. So one of these is maybe from the tech industry that now is just overused all the time. But some of these are all overused. They're all disguised as everything is figureoutable, but they're actually kind of counterproductive and toxic. And number one, and you guys have all heard this one. I know you've all heard this one. Think outside the box, right? First of all, 1980 called and they want their catchphrase back. Secondly, when you actually think about what is being said, right, with think outside the box, it means just get creative. Just let's creatively think about this, right? Like, let's stop thinking about things the way they've always been done or the traditional way, right, of doing things, which seems harmless, right? But why wouldn't you just say, like, let's get creative? Let's get creative. Like, think outside the box is an implied judgment that existing thinking has all been inside the box. So there's an implied belief of a lack of creativity to whoever you're saying that to. So, right, like, so if you're a manager and you say to an employee, think outside the box on this one, okay? Think outside the box on this one. Part of what is being implied there is, I haven't actually seen any creativity from you, so you're going to need to, like, think outside the box on this one. So I feel like that's counterproductive and a little bit toxic because of what it implies that we're thinking about the person that we say it to. Think outside the box. Plus, it's just really trite and overused at this point. Like, it's actually been around way longer than 1980. So let's just toss that one. All right. Number 2. This is more of a corporate phrase, but this is another one, right? Disguised as like, everything is figureoutable, but counterproductive, and maybe even a little bit toxic because of the way it's used. And that is, let's get scrappy with this project. We're going to need to get scrappy with this one, right? And I'm just going to say, for the record, this is one that I've heard a lot in different workplaces, right? And all that ever meant was, you are going to be incredibly under-resourced, but you're going to need to deliver anyway. So whether it's from, the VP telling you your team has to make this magic happen, but you're going to need to get scrappy with it. It means there's no budget. There's like very little staffing for it. There are very few resources, but you're going to have to make it happen anyway. That's what scrappy is code for. And if you think about what scrappy actually means and implies, there's another level of like negativity there, right? So scrappy is just like throwing a bunch of crap together, right? Like scraps, leftovers, right? So words matter, right? And when you hear those kinds of phrases from leadership, it implies, a lack of creativity, a lack of understanding of how, words are taken in by the people that they're said to, and the effect they actually have on productivity and someone's ability to, figure things out or get creative or, make something happen with limited resources, right? Okay. And number three is one that emerged from the tech industry. This is the one that emerged from the tech industry that people say now that just, it hurts my heart on so many levels. But this is, we'll need to build this plane while we're flying it. We're going to need to build this plane while we're flying it. And this one actually came out of Silicon Valley because of, software iterations, right? Like you launch something and then you get user feedback and you tweak it, right? It's what we talked about earlier with you iterate, right? You make progress on something as you go. And it became known as building the plane while you're flying it, okay? And so popularized in Silicon Valley, people heard someone say it and they're like, oh, that's like a cool thing to say. That's a new phrase, right? It's not think outside the box. We're going to build this plane while we're flying it. And that one bothers me a lot because if you actually think about the image that conjures, right? Trying to build a plane while you're flying it or get a plane off the ground before it's built, right? All that means is total freaking chaos. Total freaking chaos, all right? It's not Silicon Valley, all right? If that's used anywhere outside of the software design world, total freaking chaos is what that actually translates to. So we're not building planes while we're flying them, right? We can, fluff the pillows on the plane while we're flying it, right? We can, decorate a little bit maybe while we're flying it, but you can't build something while you're flying it, right? We're going to get rid of the tired old thinking outside the box. And we're not going to say getting scrappy when we actually mean we've got no budget and resources for this, right? So I hate jargon, you guys. It's one of the reasons I just started really disconnecting from corporate America, wanting to get out of that environment because I do believe that words matter. I do believe that how they're taken in depend on what is actually being said and what is implied in the subtext of what is being said. And without getting too deep and too, English majory about that, I wanted to share those phrases because there are things like that people might say, everything is figureoutable, or let's just think outside the box, or let's get scrappy, right? And they're actually telegraphing something a little different underneath. So I wanted to share those. I think, the best leaders, the best managers, just use straight talk, right? Straight talk, empowering language that reflects the realities of situations, that don't try to sugarcoat it, that don't imply negativity underneath, right? That don't conjure images of total freaking chaos. So straight talk, empowering language, and reality, right, is where we should base our language. And everything is figureoutable feels like that kind of positive, empowering, mindset-focused mantra that really resonates, right? It's one of the reasons why I chose this book to talk about tonight for our Let's Get Lit discussion for September. All right, you guys, that is our show. That's our show. I want to share a couple things before we sign off for the night. One of which is our good news segment. I always want to do a good news segment and share something positive that is happening in the world, because we could all, in addition to the great takeaways that I hope we all get from this show, hear about something good that's happening in the world. And tonight's good news story is actually an example of people figuring it out, right? And I also want to make it relevant to the content. So this is an example of people figuring it out during the pandemic, right? Which we've all had to pivot. We've all had to make adjustments, live lives, work, take care of our families in new and different ways during the pandemic, figuring it out, right, on the fly. And so in the Parade magazine, in the Sunday newspaper, the little glossy magazine that comes in the Sunday paper, there's an article about ways that the pandemic changed health habits. And there was actually a Cleveland Clinic survey of 1,000 people. And the results were actually, really inspiring. 62% of respondents said they adopted at least one healthy change during the pandemic. 62%, okay? 41% of people with chronic conditions said they were more likely to comply with their treatments. So people were focused during the pandemic on what do I need to do to stay healthy, comply with treatments, do the things I'm supposed to be doing. They should have been doing that anyway, but the pandemic made them figure out this needs to be more of a priority in my life. 76% have tried new coping techniques. 76% new coping techniques. And this is my favorite. 87% said they'll continue dietary changes post-pandemic. 87% said they'll continue things like cooking at home, preparing more healthful meals, eating as a family more often. 87% of respondents said they were going to continue their dietary changes post-pandemic. So I wanted to share that story because it's showing that even in the midst of terrible situations, right, people are figuring it out. They're making changes that they want to adopt on a permanent basis. So good news can come out of this too if we have a figuring it out mindset and we adopt changes that we want to carry forward. All right, you guys, I also promised that I would share some information about this week's charity. There are links to support our content and community in the show description. And if you weren't tuned in at the beginning of the episode, I did mention every single week, you guys, every single week, we pay it forward and donate 10% to charity. 10% to charity. It supports our content, creation and delivery, our community, and we give 10%, pay it forward to charity. This week's charity, you guys, is the epitome of an organization that has learned how to figure it out and just iterate and grow as they've gotten older. All right. This week's charity is the International Fund for Animal Welfare. Their acronym is IFAW, IFAW. And you guys, anywhere there has been massive progress in terms of animal welfare legislation, global advocacy on behalf of animals, IFAW has been there. And I'm going to read a few of their accomplishments over the years, just so you understand why there are so many animal charities out there, right? You guys, so many deserving animal charities. This one is working on a global level and on a local level. And it's one of the things I love about their mission. They're working on animal advocacy at a legislative level, at a global policy level, right? But they're also doing direct service work in local communities. And to have an organization do both and do it so brilliantly and so well and for so long is outstanding. They were founded in 1969, you guys, 50 years of work on behalf of animals they celebrated last year. They were founded by Brian Davies in 1969 with the goal to stop the cruel commercial baby seal hunts on the east coast of Canada. And you guys probably know, right? We've all heard, the stories about the baby seal hunts, and they're hunted for their skins, right? And how cruel that practice was. So this organization was founded in 1969 with the hope of ending those baby seal hunts in Canada. They celebrated 50-year anniversary last year. Some other accomplishments over the course of their 50 years are: in Uganda, they stepped in to save elephants, hippos, and other wildlife from poachers in Queen Elizabeth National Park. They are directly responsible for the elephant population rebounding from 150 to 2,400. They've helped implement a crucial ivory ban on a global level across multiple countries, saving thousands of elephants from poaching. They implemented a program that brought veterinary care to pets in poor areas of Johannesburg, South Africa. The project treated and helped nearly 500,000 dogs and cats over the past 24 years since its implementation. 500,000 dogs and cats locally on the ground in Johannesburg, South Africa, right? Policy, ivory bans, ending seal hunts. They're helping dogs and cats in South Africa. You guys, IFAW, International Fund for Animal Welfare. They also spearheaded international efforts to establish the Southern Ocean Marine Sanctuary, which protects over 90% of the world's whales. They rescued 24 tigers from a backyard zoo in New Jersey, Murray's home state. And that publicity from the rescuing the 24 tigers from the backyard zoo helped pass the Captive Wildlife Safety Act. Local action, massive policy change, right? They're also on the ground helping with natural disasters. They help with flood rescues. They are literally on the ground right now, you guys, in California, helping rescue animals from the wildfires. They are saving, they post pictures to their blog and on their social media feeds. They've saved kittens. They saved goats that were left penned inside a fence. They've rescued horses, just all kinds of animals from the wildfires in California. You guys, on the ground rescue work. Massive policy change and legislation influence. International Fund for Animal Welfare is our charity of the week. Thank you so much to everyone who made a contribution to support our content and community, and to also help us pay it forward to IFAW this week. Scott said, what a great charity. Donna, hearts, and yes. Thank you guys so much. Also, before we sign off tonight, I just want to reveal our October theme, because next Monday is going to be the first Monday of October. Can you believe it? The last quarter of 2020 starts next week. All right. I have a really special theme picked out for October, you guys, for so many reasons. We are heading into the last quarter of 2020. It's been a hard year for so many of us. So many of us have struggled in different ways. We're heading into the last quarter. We still have 3 months to make some positive outcomes happen. All right. We're also heading into an election month in November, and the world is becoming more divisive and more discouraging on a daily basis for so many different reasons, right? And so I wanted to pick a theme that kind of speaks to bringing us back together, okay? So our theme for October is going to be our best selves. Our best selves. And each week of content is going to be organized around a weekly theme that ties back to the bigger monthly theme of our best selves and what that means, okay? I also want to share what our October book is, and that is Dan Rather's What Unites Us, all right? Reflections on Patriotism. It's about ways that we are all in this together. And my dear friend Jane introduced me to this book a couple years ago when it was first published. Jane, who's here tonight, So thank you, Jane, for introducing me. We all know Dan Rather, right? The respected journalist and newsman of generations. Jane introduced me to What Unites Us a couple years ago when this book first came out, and I picked up a copy and I just fell in love with it. And regardless of, politics and all the divisiveness in our country, right, there are things that unite us as people. And this book speaks to the heart of so many of them. So this is my pick. We will be discussing this at the end of October, the week before our national election, reminding us all about the things that truly unite us as people, and tying back to our bigger October theme of our best selves, because that is what we all aspire to be, and that is what lifts up our world, our environments, our communities, our families, right? We're going to talk about some really exciting ways to lift up that theme in our own lives and the world around us. I can't wait to dive into October with you guys. We have 3 months left to make some positive changes for ourselves this year and end on a high note. So I don't know about you guys, but I am super excited to do that work with you in the coming months. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, for talking about Everything is Figureoutable, Marie Forleo's New York Times bestseller. Next week is a new month. We are going to be talking about our best selves, and the book of the month is Dan Rather's What Unites Us, inspired by my friend Jane. So thank you for that. Thank you all so much for tuning in and being here tonight. Mwah. I love you all. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. And I'll see you back